Greece has told the International Monetary Fund it will delay Friday's €300 million, £216 million, debt repayment and bundle all four of its June payments together. The Athens government will have until June 30 to pay the Euro 1.5 billion total, which is also the day on which its bailout deal with the EU and IMF runs out. Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras is trying to reach a deal to unlock final bailout funds before Greece runs out of money. But Greece's creditors say differences remain between the two sides. IMF spokesman Gerry Rice said that under a precedent dating back to the late 1970s, governments could ask to bundle together multiple principal payments falling due in a calendar month, to address the administrative difficulty of making multiple payments in a short period. The last country to bundle together payments to the IMF was Zambia in the mid-1980s. Mr. Tsipras said after talks in Brussels in the early hours of Thursday that an agreement with Greece's international creditors was in sight. However, the head of the Eurozone's finance ministers June IMF, who was involved in the negotiations, said later the gap was still quite large. High-level talks were expected to resume on Friday, although Mr. Tsipras was due to brief the Greek parliament rather than return to Brussels. In sight. Mr. Tsipras rejected elements of proposals put forward by his country's international creditors in talks with Mr. Dijsselbloem and European Commission Chief Jean-Claude Juncker. He said the sides were now very close to an agreement on the key sticking point of primary surpluses, the amount by which tax revenues exceed public spending. But he said there were points that no one would consider as a base for discussion, citing cuts to pensions and a raise in sales tax for electricity. Mr. Dijsselbloem said the talks had been successful in narrowing down the remaining issues, although key differences still remained. He expected Greece to look at our proposals more carefully, probably come up with some alternative proposals that they want, Reuters quoted him as saying. Greece's cash-strapped government has been haggling since February over the release of the last Euro 7.2 billion in funds, but its current bailout arrangement with the IMF, European Central Bank, ECB, and European Commission runs out at the end of June. Failure to reach a deal could trigger a Greek default and a potential exit from the Eurozone. Speaking to the BBC on Thursday, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said, "We want Greece to stay in the Euro, but in order to achieve that Greece has to make the necessary efforts, and these are the subject of our ongoing discussions, and I want to see them come to a positive result."